Okay, so we're going to talk about the command line today. So the as we've gone over, so Encore just showed us the Visual Studio Code editor, and it's very useful, and that's what we're going to be doing. But there's some things you can do when you're navigating around your file system and executing commands and even scripts when we start getting into slightly more advanced stuff where you need to know what's happening on the command line, not just from a general perspective of understanding how things work, but even speed and efficiency. So, like many new things, it seems it's more difficult and time consuming at first, but ends up saving you time in the long run. So I'm gonna share my screen here. All right, can you guys see my terminal?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I don't know if anyone has ever played like one of those old text-based video games. If you have, you don't have to admit it in front of everyone if you don't want to. So I'll assume that at least one or two of you have done something as embarrassing as that. So the way text-based video games, it's basically like a puzzle, and then you go into like different rooms and you can travel around and move and so forth. But you don't use a mouse; you just use basically the console. So we're gonna do something similar, or just see how we can get around. So when I first open a terminal, I'm just sitting here looking at my thing with the misspelled computer name that I have. So if I want to know where I am, does anyone know how I can find out where I am in my computer?
Like on PWD?
Working directory.
Yeah. So PWD, which means present working, so maybe CWD, current working directory, but PWD is a command, so I can find out where I am in the computer. So /user/coplatoon, and you'll probably have your name instead of coplatoon right there. Okay, so I know where I am. What about who I am? How do I find out who I am?
Who am I?
Yeah, so who am I? So again, that'll probably have your name. So I now, I open my terminal and now I know where I am and who I am. So that's a good first step in figuring out how everything else works. So what if I want to look around? How do I look around?
LS.
So ls, and this is going to list the contents of the current, or my present working directory. So I do ls, I can see everything that's happening. Okay, so I know where I am, I know who I am, I can see what's around me, and now I want to start moving somewhere. So I want to go to my desktop folder.
CD.
So CD, and then wherever I want to go, so desktop. And what if I'm very lazy and I don't want to type desktop?
First couple letters, then tab.
Yeah, so you get enough letters to disambiguate, which DE should be enough, and then tab, and it will auto-complete. Okay, so now I press enter. So CD means change directories. So we know where we are with PWD, your present working directory. Who am I? Probably won't use too much. LS you'll use all the time to look around you and see what's in your current files in the current folder. And then if you want to move, you do CD. So we're going to move to the desktop, and now you can see. So your display here, your command prompt may look a little different. So this is just mine. It doesn't really matter. You don't really have to do anything, but so okay. So now I'm here in desktop, and what if I want to see what's in my desktop?
LS.
Yeah, so I do the same thing again. Okay, so again, I'm lazy. I know LS is only 2 letters, but I don't want to type it.
Double tap.
Yeah, so I can use the up arrow to go through my history. So my command history, all the commands that I've that I've given to my terminal will be saved in history. So I can scroll up and see that I have an ls. So nice. I can just press enter and now I ls again. If you want to see your history, you can type in history. Now, you don't need to know most of the stuff. The stuff you really need to do is very basic, and this is just initial presentation. We're going to do this stuff so much you're not even going to have to try to learn it. So history, this will show, I think it holds 1,000 or something like that, and that's a configurable number. But these are all the commands that I've done. Okay, so clear. I'll press clear just because I want to get a better view of things, and I'll ls again because I forgot what was around me. Okay, so now I'm going to go into code Platoon. That seems like a nice inviting folder. So I'll cd into code, and again, I'm not going to type code Platoon because I'm lazy, so I do tab and it auto completes. And now I'm in code Platoon. I can look around with ls. And I see that there's a basic commands.txt file. So that looks like it could be a useful bit of information for us. So if I want to see what's in the basic commands text file. So if I were not using the command line, I would just double click on the file and it would open up in a Microsoft Word or VS Code or whatever I wanted.
Type more and then the file name.
Okay. So you can do more, you can do less, you can do cat. So there's a lot of different options for looking at the contents of a file. So I'm just going to do less, and then I'm going to give it a file name. So basic commands.txt, and that's going to open it here, and I can see these are the contents of this text file. So navigate is cd, look inside or look around if you're in a given file or folder as ls. And then we have some new things that we haven't used yet. We've got, we can create a folder with mkdir, like make a directory. We can create a file, touch. I'm not sure why creating a file is called touch, but it is. Deleting a folder is rm, so like remove rm and then -rf for folder. You can also do rm dir, and then deleting a file is rm. So I'm going to open another. Let's see. Just open up an.
Sorry, I didn't interrupt.
Yeah.
Is there a big difference between like a file and a folder? Is a file like full of folders, or is?
So it's the opposite. So a folder contains files. So the file is kind of the leaf. So it's the end node in your structure.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, so now I have to start all over. So I'm going to go ahead and I don't want to. I mean, I could just cd and then ls and cd and ls, or if I know that I want to go to wherever I am /desktop/code Platoon, I can just type that all in. So cd desktop autocomplete and then code Platoon, that's a folder. So I can do that all in one go. And if I ls, I can see that here I am. Okay, so the next command that we have is creating a folder. So we can create a folder. So mkdir. And we'll do that command. So we're going to create a folder called command line. I press enter. And did anything happen?
You made a folder.
So how do I know that?
You type ls.
I could type ls. But I don't see anything now. I just typed in it and then I get no feedback. Is that? It seems like bad UI. So unfortunately, if you do something right in the terminal, then nothing happens. If you do something bad, then you'll get an error. So if we do ls, we can see that we have this new folder directory called command line. So we can also cd into our new folder now. So cd command line. And if we ls, you see that there's nothing at all. So this is an empty, it's an empty folder, but is it really empty? It's a trick question.
ls tech A and see all the invisible files.
Yeah, so you can do ls. So not only do we have command, but we can add flags. So ls. So these are some additional arguments or that we can pass to add additional features to whatever command we're running. So we can do a, and we can see. So I'll do ls dash la, and that will give us a slightly different formatting with some more information. So we're still listing all of the contents of our current directory, but we have these two files. One is dot and the other one was dot. So how have we been opening up code in the last 2 or 3 hours that we've been doing this?
I think we've been opening through VS Code itself, right?
Yeah.
Most of it.
The code
So-
command.
So yeah, so code and then what?
File name.
Yeah, right. So if we want to open up the contents of the current directory in VS Code, then we can do a shorthand code dot, right? And that means open up the contents of the current directory in VS Code. So dot means the current directory. So it's like it references itself. The double dot is the parent directory. So we've only been traveling one direction so far, right? If we want to go backwards, what we do is cd dot dot. We do cd dot dot. Now we're back one level up, okay? All right, so we created a directory, we seeded into it, we did ls, we can see the hidden files, these dot and dot dot. If we want to remove this command line folder, we can take a look here. If we want to delete this folder, we do rm-rf and then command line. And again, nothing happens, especially dangerous when you're deleting stuff, right? You don't want to just have nothing happen when you try to delete something, but that's how it works. If we do ls, we can check and the command line folder is gone. All right, so let's go ahead and I'm going to add that again, but I don't want to retype a command I've already done. So I'm going to press the up arrow and cycle through my history. Cycling through the history, I'm going to recreate this folder. And then I'm going to cd into command line. All right. So now that I'm here in the command line folder, I want to create a file.
Use touch.
Touch, yeah. So touch, and let's write a JavaScript file. So we'll just do greeting.js. Again, no feedback, which means whatever we just did worked. So ls, and now we can see that we have this new file. Okay, so if I want to actually put some JavaScript code in this JavaScript file that we've just created, I could open code, like code dot in the present working directory, and then go and edit the file from there. Or, again, I'm just showing you just for reference. You won't really need to do this, but there's a built-in editor for the command line called vi or vim. So you do vi greeting.js. And now we're in a file editor. So this is a very archaic file that's been around for a long time, and it'll be on basically any system that you have. So if you ever need to go into a server and modify files, then this will be available, whereas VS Code will not. And in the first couple iterations of Platoon, they actually had to learn on Vim. So consider yourselves very lucky. it's like learning a whole nother language, and I just know a couple things. So if I want to start writing, I have to press I to change modes to insert mode, and then I also do console log. This is a JavaScript file, so I from JavaScript. And then to save, I'll do escape : WQ. Very intuitive, right? That's how you save and exit. So now I have this file, like an ls, it's still there, so that didn't break. And again, if I want to see the contents of the file, there's a couple things I can do. So I'll do cat, which is short for concatenate. Again, why is cat cat? I'm not sure, but so we can read the contents of the file. Okay, so now we can see that we have a file. We've created a file using touch. We've gone in and edited the file. We haven't used our mouse yet, and we've saved this file. So what if I want to run this JavaScript file?
Node
Node.
greeting.js.
Yeah, so I can use node and then greeting.js, and it works. Okay. So there's a question earlier about file naming. So Unix-based systems, the extension is just for humans. So we could actually change the name of this. So you could do MV, which is move. That's also how you change something's name. MV greeting.js, greeting. So now we've removed the extension. And if we try to run it again, I'm using the up arrow to go through my history. Press enter. Whoops. Yeah, sorry. Got to do greeting. So we're going to try to run this file greeting, and it works. If we try to, so again, not to confuse you, but just so that it doesn't matter. So let's rename this again from greeting to greeting.py. And if we ls, we can see that now our JavaScript file has the Python extension. So that's very confusing. Probably wouldn't want to do that in real life. You can run node greeting.py and it runs just fine, right? So when you're on the command line, you're telling it specifically what to do. So these things just don't, the extension doesn't matter. But that's more of like a novelty, FYI kind of thing.
So if you did Python instead of Node, it wouldn't run, correct?
No. So you'll get an error if I try to do Python and try to run JavaScript. Console is not defined. So I get a runtime error in Python. So Python tried to run the contents of the file. Okay. So we've got here. So let's go ahead and we'll do the same thing. I want to pick on a volunteer to help me. Can't see people's names right now. All right, I'll just ask for someone to volunteer since I can't be cruel. I don't know everyone's name yet. Is there a volunteer? Okay, cool. So can you walk me through? So we just created this greeting.js file. So I want to create a Python file and then print hello from Python. So can you tell me how to do that on the command line?
Sorry, could you run that back? There was some background noise.
Sure. Yeah. So I just want to do something similar to what we just did. So we just created a JavaScript file. And what I want to do now is create a Python file and then print hello from Python and then run that file.
All right, give me 1 second. Let me think about this.
So the first thing we need to do is create a file called, we'll call it greeting.py. So how do I create a file called greeting.py?
That one is the touch, right?
So touch, and then
Greeting.py and whatever directory you want to. put it in.
So we'll keep it in the current directory. So now we have two files. We have this new greeting.py, and then this is, again, you guys won't need to use Vim, but we can do the basic structure of this stuff is all the same. We have a command, just like a function, right? We have a command and we have arguments. We have a function and we have arguments. So vi is a function, and we give it the argument of the file that we want to look at. So that's greeting.py. And then, has anyone started looking at Py, or actually, do you happen to know how to, what the syntax is for printing in Python?
It's just print with parentheses around what you want to print, right?
Yep. Okay. So print.
Or not even parentheses, just.
Yeah. So Python 2, the syntax is a little different. So this is Python 3 syntax. So we'll keep the parentheses, and then hello from Python. And we'll close the parentheses, and then we'll save it. And we can check the contents. We can ls, the file's still there. We can check the contents by doing cat. So cat greeting. And I did tab autocomplete, but it didn't read my mind to know that I wanted the Python instead of the JavaScript. So it goes up until the point where there's an ambiguity. And now I have to type in some more information. So I want the Py, and I can press tab again and it will fill in the rest. Okay. So if I want to run this Python file, how do I do that?
Would you still, do you use Node for it, or is there another command?
So Node is a runtime environment for JavaScript.
Java, that's you.
Python 3?
Yeah, so it basically depends on what your path, how your path is set up. So the way we tell you to do it, Python should refer to whatever version of Python 3 you have. So we'll just do Python, although in your specific setup, it could be Python 3. We'll do Python and then greeting tab. Again, I have to disambiguate now. So we'll do Py, and there it runs. Okay. So what happens if I want to run both of these at the same time? So I'm lazy. Again, I don't want to have to type in, run this file and then another command. I want to do it all on one line.
Before that, I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
So Node is for JavaScript files, right?
Yeah.
And, like, but previously we have used Node for .py files too. Why is that? And it's working completely fine. Why is that?
Yeah. So it's possible that we shouldn't be telling you. It's a little bit confusing, but the extension doesn't directly matter to your file system. So you could name the file. You could have a Python file and name it .js. You shouldn't do that. There's no reason for you to do that, but you could do that. So yeah, I'm just kind of showing you a strange thing.
Okay.
But you should always name your JavaScript files .js and your Python files .py.
Okay. And is it like vice versa? Like, can I use Python greetings.js and it's gonna work fine?
It depends on what the contents of the file are. So Python expects Python syntax. So if you give it Python syntax, it'll be great.
Oh, I get it. Like for Node, it can understand the Python syntaxes. That's why it's like running it. If there was some
yeah, Node only understands JavaScript, and Python, the Python interpreter, only understands Python.
Well, to be
why
clear,
did it
isn't
run .py? That's my question. Like, how?
Yeah, sorry, we probably shouldn't have done that. That was meant as just as an illustration of something, but I think maybe it ended up being more.
I'll just remember that. Okay.
Okay. So use Node to run JavaScript files and use Python to run Python files.
Yeah. Thank you.
So to be clear, isn't Node actually Node.js, which is JavaScript framework, right?
Yeah, so I mean, Node is an engine that runs JavaScript. So JavaScript is built to run in the browser, but Node is a way to run JavaScript on the command line or from a server or something like that. So the way JavaScript works in Node and the way it works in the browser, they're very, very similar, but there are a couple minor differences. But in practice, you can think of them as being the same thing. Okay, so if I want to run two files at the same time or do two things at the same time, I can use and. So it's basically like it's kind of like a conditional, and you'll see similar things in JavaScript and Python. So we'll run the JavaScript, so node greeting.js, and we'll do and Python greeting.py. So what this does is it looks like it's just saying to do two things, but it's actually a conditional. So it's saying do this, and if it's successful, then do this also. So this is like a conditional. So this has to evaluate to true. There has to be no error, and then this one will run. So we do this, then both files run on a single command. Okay, so so now that we've done all this stuff, let's delete things. So we've navigated around, we've looked inside, we've created a folder with mkdir, created a couple files with touch. We've deleted a folder, and we can delete a file. So if we delete a file, we have two files to delete. So we can do rm. We can do them one at a time, or we can pass multiple files. We'll just go do it one at a time. Greeting.js. Okay, again, I get no feedback, which means that the command was successful. So ls.
Can I throw something in here real quick?
Sure.
If you use the -v command, it's verbose, and it will actually talk to you.
Right. Yeah, so I think there's also an -i where you can confirm it deletes. Yeah. So
Yep.
so that's a good point. So we're just kind of giving you the bare commands, but there's a lot of other options for fine tuning your specific use cases. And you can look at the documentation. So the man page or the manual. So this is the built-in manual page for the ls function or functionality, and it just tells you here's a list of all the options. You can do -l, right? Force output to be one entry per line. Uppercase A, lowercase a, which we've seen, right? Includes directory entries whose name begins with a dot. Those are hidden files. So if you have a question about some command, you can always check the man page, the manual.
Hey, Chad, I know you probably did this out of habit. When you were doing what you were just doing, can you explain how you were scrolling and how you exited? Because I see people get stuck in there all the time.
Sorry. Yeah, so this is, I press the up arrow, so I go back in my history and I can run this command again. So I run the command, and then this is just like basically a file viewer. So, and I can go up and down. So I'm just using the down arrow. I can go up and down. And then when I'm done, I just press Q to quit, and then I can go back to where I was.
Is it okay if we use
and by the way, yeah, you guys,
okay.
You do not need to be memorizing everything that's happening right here. The important things that you'll learn, and you'll learn them just because you're going to do them so many times, are these. You need to be able to move around. You need to be able to look around in your immediate environment. You need to be able to create files and folders and delete files and folders. That's really all you need to be able to do on the command line. The rest of this is kind of just giving you like more context for the command line. Bash is a full featured language. So Chris, who was just on, and setting up the cloud, you can look at the bash script that you wrote. It's, I don't know, it's like 100 lines or something. So it's a language that has conditionals. You can write functions. There's all kinds of other utilities that we'll be using on the command line, like curl. So curl, if I want to, I can visit a website on the command line. So I'll go to, so I do curl and then the website I want to go to. And now it's not like, quite as user-friendly as you're used to on Chrome or whatever, but this is the HTML. This is the HTML that you get back. So there are a lot of like command line utilities and functions that are available to you. Okay, so let's get back on. Oh, so I'm sorry. Did someone else have a question?
I thought I asked if we can use gedit instead of them.
Oh yeah. You please there's no obligation. I wouldn't use them unless you had no other choice.
Cool. Thank you.
So I mean, you should really be using VS Code. This is just to show you expose you to some things that are available. So if I want to reorient myself, what's going on? LS, okay, green.py. So let's delete this other file. It's green. So rm remove, and then we'll give it as a parameter the file name, greeting.py, enter. And if I do ls again, it's gone. So now I have an empty directory, which I can, except for the hidden files, right? Hidden files, which I can access with the -a flag. So you have a reference to the current directory, and then the dot can go one up. So I'll do that right now. So I'll change directories, cd. I'll go one level up, cd . Now I'm in code Platoon, and I'm all done with this. So I'm gonna go ahead and trash my environment here. So if I want to remove the command line file, how should I do that?
Just rm the file name.
Okay, let's try that. So rm and then command line, and again, just type a couple letters and then tab, autocomplete. Okay, so that's what happens if you do something wrong. You'll get some feedback. So rm command line is a directory. So that may not be the most helpful error message. So if we were just, all by ourselves, we could take a look at this and try to figure out what it means. Maybe it's not clear, so we copy this, paste it, look it up online, and I won't go through that, but this basically means that rm just by itself, without any flags, expects a file, and we gave it a folder, right? So it's like if you have a function and the function expects to operate on a string, but you give it a number and it blows up, right? So we passed it a bad parameter. So what we need to do is just modify. So again, up arrow, and then I can add -rf. So this is just a flag that makes it recursive, so it allows you to delete the folder and all of its contents. Okay, so now it works, and if I do ls, I can see that that folder is gone. So that's.
I have a quick question.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry. When we RM, are we so we're deleting it completely? Is there any way to recover it if we accidentally?
I don't think
do RM.
So this is
it still living somewhere or no?
Yeah. So this is very serious. So this is why you can potentially, especially if you're acting as the root user, you can destroy everything. That's one of the things about Unix systems that they allow people to destroy themselves, whereas that's much harder to do even on a Mac or on a Windows machine. So you don't want to do stuff as root user unless you absolutely have to. Yeah, so if you wanted to, so as someone mentioned, you can add some flags. So if you're concerned about accidentally, so let me create another file. Okay, this is just an empty file. We can see it's here. So I'm going to do rm-i, and then my file. So now when I add that flag, the I means interactive. So it's gonna ask me like, are you sure you want to delete? So this is kind of what we're expecting when we delete files, right? On a normal system. So, and now it's gone. But the short answer is when you delete stuff, it doesn't go into the, you know, the trash can or whatever. It gets deleted. So yes, be careful when you're
Got it. Thanks.
using RM. Okay. So that's at this point, so that's kind of introduction to the command line. Again, we talked about a lot of stuff, but here's what's important. CD, change directories. LS, look inside, list the contents of the directory. Create a folder or directory, right? Same thing. mkdir, create a file. Touch, delete a folder, rm-rf, and delete a file, rm. Okay, so I'm gonna, if there are no questions, I'll wrap it up and hand it back over to Ankur, who is gonna give us an overview of how the entire course is structured and, you know, when we're doing what and all that, just to give you, you know, it's nice to have some kind of, you know, framework when you're drowning in the middle of Django and you think it'll never be over, but there's something else coming up next. So he's also going to go over Git. So when we do challenges, we'll be using GitHub. So he's going to go over forking and cloning and all that Git stuff. Again, with all this stuff, we're going to do it so many times throughout the next few weeks and months that you probably don't really have to try to learn it. So don't feel like this is the first day. There's a ton of stuff going on. It's easy to get overwhelmed. Don't feel like you need to be memorizing anything really at this point, because you don't. All right, I'll stop sharing.